26 attendees. Are we broadcasting now, Terry?
Yes.
Okay. We just let people know that we'll start at 11:05 Eastern time, so in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
For those of you who are already on the call, we'll start at about 5 after. For those of you who are already on the call, we'll start at about 5 after.
Okay, I think I have 5 minutes after on my clock here. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the February community meeting call. This is Keith Elliston, CEO of the tranSMART Foundation. Just an FYI for people, you should know that the meetings are recorded for offline viewing, and so comments and questions will be recorded, and part of that, and the recordings are made available offline. So I'd like to start today. Do you have the agenda slide, Terry? So I would like to go through just a quick update on a few things that we have going on. We'll spend the majority of our time talking about the recent hackathon that we had here in Boston, going through some of the things there, and certainly taking any questions and answers that people might have on that. Then I'll take you through a quick set of upcoming events, and then also ask you for your ongoing suggestions for monthly calls. Anyone who would like to give a presentation to the community during the community calls, etc., please let us know. And then we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end, or any kind of comments that people want to make. So moving on. On the membership program side, I'd like to say that we're progressing things forward at a steady pace. Things are taking a bit longer to get closed for us than we expected. But we currently have applications completed from Pfizer, Deloitte, Roche, Takeda, and now Sanofi. We have one more gold member, which is coming through that we're completing the paperwork on. We also have a number of bronze members, including Cognizant, the Hive, and Sama Technologies, and a number of applications that are pending from groups that are still working through some of the issues on those applications. Those are from AssureRx, Imperial College, the ISB, Johns Hopkins, Oracle, University of Michigan, and a few others. I would like to invite people that if your organization has not yet joined as a member, please do. The membership program will remain open, and we'll continue pushing. But if your company has not yet joined, please let me know and we can follow that up. In addition, we have affiliate memberships that have been extended to our two platform partnerships with Etrix and with Trait, and we're working through the details on those. Finally, we will be issuing a press release basically outlining the groups that have joined the foundation by the end of February. And for those of you who are interested, we've been holding off on the election of new board members until we have the first round of memberships completed, so that we can include everyone who has made those applications in the board election. So that's a little bit delayed past what we would like, but we should have that held by the end of February. Next slide. Okay, we had the opportunity to have a developers workshop or hackathon, or for those who don't like the word hackathon, an international developers conference or CodeFest. It was held February 5th through 7th in Boston, just a short time ago. And I'd like to take you through a little bit of what we had there, and then Peter Rice will join us to take us through some of the details. I'd also like to point out that this is the kind of event that the foundation is really looking to host more prominently in the future. We were able to attract sponsorship for this event, largely from Sanofi and from Deloitte. And it's through these sponsorships that we were able to bring a number of developers over from Europe to participate in this, as well as developers from the US. Next slide. So to give you the background, we're currently working on the roadmap on the version 1.2. We've developed that path to release a version 1.2 beta by BioIT World end of April this year, and a full release of the platform, a production release by June 20th, just prior to our next large community workshop. The purpose of the hackathon was to begin the merging process of the major branches into a single branch for this 1.2 effort. As I mentioned, there was sponsorship by Sanofi for overseas travel, lodging, and a lot of the logistics around the meeting. And I'd like to thank Sherry Cow and the group at Sanofi for stepping up and helping with this. The meeting was held at Deloitte's offices in Newton. And Deloitte also stepped up and sponsored a number of key events with this, and participated very deeply in the overall hackathon. And I'd like to thank them for their sponsorship and for hosting the event. The event was 3 days, February 5th through 7th. Anyone who's in Boston will recognize that February 5th was a snow day. We had a blizzard that day. And so our team was safely ensconced in the Deloitte offices. Fortunately, the hotel was right across the street, so walking through the snow was not too difficult. But we did have the offices largely to ourselves because the facility there was closed down for the snow for that day. We met for 3 days, people arriving on the 4th, working through the 5th through the 7th, and a number of groups continue to work through the weekend. The hackathon was attended quite well. We had 6 developers from Deloitte, our host, 1 from Harvard, 3 from Imperial College, 1 from University of Michigan, 1 from PerkinElmer, 2 from Pfizer, 1 from Sanofi, 4 from the Hive, and then 2 tranSMART Foundation members. And one of the key things we really wanted to do in this, and we focused on, was having a group meeting of people that were actually working on the code and working with the code towards the merging of the 1.2. And in fact, that focus was very important to the event and went very well. Next slide. So you can see this is a team picture taken toward the end of the conference, but this is the group that was working together, did a very good job. I can see that a number of the group members from Deloitte that were part of this and participating throughout, unfortunately did not get their pictures taken. But we're really key and integral parts of the overall success of the hackathon. Next slide. And then the thing I wanted to highlight a little bit before Peter gives us some more detail is what was accomplished at this hackathon. And the key thing from the foundation perspective that we see as the real challenge to the version 1.2 is bringing all these major code branches of the platform into a single branch that the foundation and the community can grow from. So one of the key tasks was to review all the various code branches, to identify those branches that are to be merged, and to begin that merging process. And that, in fact, was accomplished. That review took place, and we have a detailed plan that's moving that forward that Peter will take us through. We organized ourselves into defined working groups that could pursue different sets of tasks. There was a lot of merging, a lot of code updating. We had identified a total of 38 tasks using our Scrum board, and of that, we were able to complete 15 tasks, and a number of those are continuing. And what we're looking forward to is the next hackathon. We'd like to do another one of these events towards the end of March. It takes us about 6 weeks to put these things together. And so if your group would like to step up and sponsor the next hackathon, that would be fantastic. Please let me know. We'd like to do the next one likely at Imperial College in London. EK has offered up the facilities at Imperial College for us to work together, and if you have interest in that, please let me know. And then finally, one of the real advantages here was going back through the series of branches that are on the GitHub and removing those branches that really are not critical in the core code base. So a lot of work in defining what comes together, what's being pruned, key tasks for bringing this together. And I'd like to thank the team for the work that they did, and I'd like to hand this over to Peter to give us a little more detail. Peter, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay, great. Next slide, please, Terry. Okay, so this was our starting point of what was required. This is the list of features that was prioritized at the community meeting in Paris. And so we're working through everything with a nice colorful priority down there, except for the VCF support, which is ongoing with OncoTrack and isn't in the code branches yet. So everything else was a subject for the hackathon for merging in. Next slide, please. Okay, so we started off with the family history of all of these branches that we had to merge. As you see from the snapshot of the board we were using, some of this goes back a very long way to the original GPL release, and it's been progressed by Sanofi. The other branches are all basically related to tranSMART 1.1, so we started with those and put all of those together, and that gives us faceted search, the Hive's core API, and a good start on the Oracle compatibility. And it merged some of the Sanofi RC2 features, which are included in the core API. So we've made a start on there. Deloitte brought a branch along called Netezza, which is merging with IBM's Netezza, but also merges other features into tranSMART 1.1. So those were the parts we were most after. And we had a lot of help from the Recombinant guys who came in through the snow. So everyone else at Recombinant was given the day off. They came in to be with us, and we're very grateful for their hospitality and their effort to trudge in. So various extras put in through there, a cleanup of the advanced workflows, so they will be much simpler and hopefully faster in 1.2. Next slide, please. And this leaves us with some things that we're still working on. So we got version 1.0 of the Pfizer GWAS covered. Pfizer are still working on the updates to that, and that's ongoing effort. And adding workspace and folder management features from their own branch. We're also working at Imperial on the remaining Sanofi code, things from the RC1 branch, like their search and analyze interface, which needs to be ported to Postgres, and other things from the RC2 branch to complete that. And everything that we put into 1.2, we're going to test and make work on Oracle and Postgres. So this will be the first branch that supports both versions. And there's going to be a big effort there with the testing. We hope to add a lot of extra tests so it doesn't have to all be done by hand, but we'll see how that goes. Next slide, Terry. So here's a shot of, we had several rooms to work in as groups. You can see from the number of cars outside, this was not day one. This is when people had started coming in again. So the offices were quite full. So we've merged code from the Hive, from Imperial, and a lot of the Sanofi features which were already included in the Hive's API branch. And we're working our way through testing that build. We've got most of Deloitte's new things in from recombinant. We started the remaining Pfizer and Sanofi contributions. We've identified the key issues in porting things from Oracle to Postgres. We can get hold of the data that was being used. There's nothing confidential from Sanofi in there, so we can just grab the Oracle database and do the rest of the porting. We're working on that now. Next slide. And so what's coming up now is to continue merging the code. We've got offers of public data from Rancho and other sources, adding a lot more testing and QA so that we don't have to do everything by hand. We made some breakthroughs in the hackathon in automating the QA testing, and then working out what the key features are for the release notes and improving the documentation of them. I think that's my bit, and back to you, Keith.
Okay, thank you, Peter. That's great. If you can give us the next slide, Terry. So I think this is this hackathon was a great example for us to learn from. I think from the foundation perspective, bringing people together to work specifically on integration around a particular release goal and agenda was really a fantastic thing. What I think is a really important lesson for us to learn as a community is that by bringing people from our diverse groups together, from Europe, from the U.S., and from academia, from pharma, etc., bring everybody into the same room really enables the communication and the effectiveness of the teams working together. I think also having the developers contribute their various different knowledge. We had a number of attendees that had good experience from early developments with the platform or with specific branches of the platform, and having everyone in the same room to be able to answer key questions very quickly was fantastic. And in fact, being hosted at Deloitte, we could actually go and talk to some of the developers that wrote other sometimes obscure parts of the code and get them into the mix and make sure that we had all that information at our fingertips. I think one of the nice outcomes from the foundation and community perspective is that in preparing to be at the hackathon, a lot of people did a lot of work to really bring things together, to be ready to communicate and to collaborate. And it was a lot of that work ahead of time that really made things successful. And number one, I appreciate people doing that. But number two, I think it's something we need to count on as we go forward, that as we organize ourselves into these code fests and hackathons, that people are doing a lot of work up front to be prepared for those and to participate in those. And I think the other thing is that having the right kind of facilities makes a huge difference. And the facilities that were provided by Deloitte were fantastic. We had the hotel right across the street from the space where we were working. We had a number of individual meeting spaces so we could break into small teams. I think we had 5 different conference rooms in use during the time, and some open spaces for mingling, for discussion, etc. And I think as we all learned that having good quality coffee and lots of it and abundant food throughout was fantastic, and really helped people in getting through and working the long hours that they put in for this. Next slide. The other thing that I think we learned from this, from a leadership perspective, is that we want to try and do these with a little more upfront notice, and I think that's what we're trying to do. One of the beautiful things is that if we can get sponsors to step up for these and host sites to step up for these in the future, we'd like to do those as early as we can and make that a more facile process. The other thing is setting up a number of test environments, setting up places where people can stage code, can stage content, things for the test environments, etc. Very important. And I should mention that the British Telecom was a great sponsor of this as well in setting up and maintaining a hosted environment for us where we could do some of this. I think next time we'll just set this up a little bit more ahead of time than we did this time. I think we can also do a bit more detailed work on goals and initial task list for arrival. I thought we did a great job, and Dave and Peter and Terry stepped up and led us through a real discussion of goals and setting up the various tasks for the hackathon as we went through. But we can probably do a little better job of doing that up front. And then finally, we've identified some needed resources for future actions. We have tools that are needed around various aspects of things, CI tools, pre-configured development and testing systems. Be helped to have a security audit, and we can talk about the one that's last on the list. Oracle, in joining the foundation, has also offered to be an active participant in these hackathons as we go forward, and to ensure that we have the kind of expertise we need in working with the database, working with the rest of our development community. So all in all, I think it was a very successful event. I want to thank everyone involved. Next slide, Terry. Those include our sponsors, Sanofi, Deloitte. I should have British Telecom up there as well. We'll change that for the distributed set. The participants, we have participants from many of the major groups that are working on the platform: Imperial College, the Hive, University of Michigan, Deloitte, Harvard, PerkinElmer, and Pfizer. We had a great set of people supporting the logistics for this. Angie Mubarak at Zirtual, Dina Ronson and Dave John at Deloitte, and our hosts really helped put a lot of things together and stepped up and did a lot of extra work there. And then the foundation, Kevin, Ashley, Terry, I don't know why Terry's name isn't up there, Terry Weymouth as well, did a lot of really good work in supporting things. Next slide, Terry. And then the attendees. This was a great list of people. I think one thing that I'd like to point out is that having this, very experienced group of developers was a fantastic, a group of people to work with. I think with the perspective of bringing new people into the group, this is also an amazing training opportunity when people come in. So as people are coming into the platform and learning quite a bit about this, participating in these events is really something important for getting up to speed quickly. And I do think as we go forward in the future that these hackathon events are going to be some of our most important member-driven events, and that as we bring members together for these events and give them participation, it's really going to help drive the platform forward. So I want to thank everyone involved in that. It was a fantastic event. Now we look forward to the next one. We're in the early organizing setup for this, and I'd love to have a couple of sponsors step up and help sponsor the next one so we can bring developers from North America to Europe to participate in this as well. Next slide. So with that, I'd like to transition to upcoming events and head through things. And thanks again, Peter, for your work in bringing this together in the hackathon. The organizing committee, Peter, Dave John, Ward Westra at the Hive, and Terry with his help from University of Michigan did a great job in bringing things together. It was really fantastic. I do see one question on the board for that. We'll come to that question at the end. It'll be just shortly, Chris. So upcoming events, next slide, Terry. Just in terms of upcoming events, I want to remind everyone of the community calls once a month. We have these coming up on March 18th, April 15th, May 20th, and June 17th. Please make sure you register ahead of time, and you can come in and join the meetings. Next slide. If we look at our marketing calendar, one of our next major events is the BioIT World event in Boston. We will be releasing the version 1.2 beta at that event and getting that out into people's hands to be worked with. We're also hosting a number of things around that, which I'll take you through. June 24th through 26th, we have the tranSMART next community meeting face-to-face in Springhouse, Pennsylvania. This is being hosted by J&J, and we're working now to put together the organizing committee to put together a series of discussions and talks around the community's 3 C's, code, community, and content. Brian Athey has stepped up to help us with the content side of this. And we have EK working on the code aspect of this, and Kevin Smith is coordinating things on the community side. So if you have interest in giving a talk or making a presentation of some kind, being part of that event, please contact those three leaders of those three areas. And then July 11th, we have the ISMB event coming up in Boston. We're currently going through plans for this. We know that there are a number of talks that will be given there. If anyone has a particular interest in participating in the ISMB events, please contact me or Kevin Smith. Next slide. The BioIT World event, we'll be hosting a number of key things here in Boston starting April 29th. We have a pre-conference workshop, which will go from 12:30 to 4 p.m. This will be a workshop focused on the tranSMART platform as it exists and where it's going, discussion around key aspects of things like roadmap, etc. The agenda will have a tranSMART Foundation overview. We have a number of sponsored talks to help us defray the cost of the workshop and to give our sponsors an opportunity to speak to the community. BT Global Systems has stepped up and is sponsoring one of these, and we have 2 open sponsorship slots for others if you're interested in being a sponsor. Sanofi will be giving a presentation, Sherry Cow, on the use of tranSMART at Sanofi. We have a presentation from Paul Avalock at Harvard about the use of tranSMART in his research and where they're taking things. And then Brian Athey will be giving us a demonstration of the work that Michigan and Johns Hopkins University are doing in the use of tranSMART, particularly in some clinical research settings. Next slide. There are a number of presentations that will be taking place at BioIT World. We have a presentation at 11 o'clock by Michael Braxenthaler, co-founder of the foundation and the VP of our Pharma Liaison activities. He'll be giving a talk entitled tranSMART, a rapidly evolving community-driven open source platform for translational research. And then at 4 p.m. on the 30th, Peter Henstock at Pfizer will be giving a talk entitled GWAVA, Genome-Wide Association Visual Analyzer, which is for tranSMART. And then the evening of the 30th, Deloitte will be hosting a community meeting from 6:30 to 8 p.m. In which we'll be going through a number of the key features and capabilities of the version 1.2. So if you want to be involved in those discussions, see some of the new features and things that are coming through, you'll want to be a part of that community meeting, again, hosted by Deloitte in their offices in Boston from 6:30 to 8 o'clock that evening. Next slide. On Thursday, May 1st, there will be 2 presentations. There'll be a presentation at 3:10 by Jay Bergeron on ETRICS, the European Translational Research Information and Knowledge Management Services, 18 months into a novel IMI project to support translational research data management. So we're really looking forward to this and hearing a lot more about what's happening with ETRICS and the use of tranSMART within that. And there'll be a presentation at 3:30 p.m. By Angela Godet from Pfizer, tranSMART, Enabling Rapid Exploratory Analyses and Hypothesis Generation at Pfizer. So these are a couple of key talks on the Thursday. Next slide, Terry. I think that kind of lays things out there for BioIT World. And I just see a note from Gil Oman, our chairman of the board, that Gil wants to confirm for folks that he will be participating in the BioIT World event, and we'll be having a number of leadership type of things happening there as well. The next face-to-face community meeting is June 24th to 26th, so please save this date on your calendar. This will be another community-focused workshop, face-to-face, as we've done in Paris and then previously in Michigan. It'll be hosted by Janssen R&D in Springhouse, PA, just outside of Philadelphia. We will have 3 streams along with this, both a code, content, and community streams. As I said, those will be organized by EK Go, Brian Athey, and Kevin Smith from the foundation, who will be working to put together some presentations, discussions, etc. If you have any ideas about this or whatnot, please contact them in the context of those committees. The organizing committee is now being formed. We have the helpful organization of Bob Bolin from Janssen and David Peruk, who helped organize the Paris meeting, helping us with lessons learned from that event, and we're building around this. So we'll be putting the agenda items together over the coming weeks, and you'll be hearing more about that in the next community call. Next slide. And finally, I'd just like to end up with asking the community to come forward with any suggestions for monthly calls. If there's a particular topic you would like to have discussed, if there are presentations you'd like to hear. What we have here is a monthly get-together of our members of the community. This is a platform for new ideas, new concepts, different thoughts of the community, and a place where we can discuss them openly. So please, if you have any suggestions, you have any ideas you'd like to present, if you'd like 10 minutes on the agenda to discuss a particular item of interest to you, please let us know and we'll include you in this agenda. With that, I'd like to go and address a couple of key questions, and then we can go to the group and see if there are any questions or comments. So on the questions, I see Chris Gates has a question. What kinds of approaches enabled increased test automation? Peter, are you still online? I think you might be the best to take that one on.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of things we can test automatically within Grails, and those will get set up on a test server which Terry set up for the hackathon. So we can extend those and have the code checked as we modify it. The other thing was that the Hive made a lot of progress in automating the tests which we currently have on the wiki, where you go into tranSMART, you do various searches and queries, you launch advanced workloads and check the results, and we were able to automate those. So we can automate that side of the testing as well and check that things work. We can validate that results are good. I hope we can also use the output of that to automate running use cases for the documentation, so that each time we do the documentation we can generate all the screenshots that we need. So on many levels we can improve the testing.
And I'll just add to that there was a lot of discussion on testing and approaches to testing at the hackathon. And what I'd like to do is invite people, if you have some ideas, you have some resources, you have scripts that you've worked with, to get in touch with Peter or with Ward or with Dave, from that perspective, to add to this list of things and to participate in that as we go forward. Having the right kinds of test suites, the right kinds of scripts in place will really help us as we move the version 1.2 process forward. Great. Terry, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that that could be a topic for the developers call. The developers calls are held in this same time slot on the non-community call weeks. And next week, Peter will be conducting the developers call. I'll be out on vacation, but testing is definitely a topic we'd like to discuss there, and people can bring their ideas to that call.
Fantastic. Thanks, Terry. As I said, I got a quick note here in the questions from Gil. I know, Gil, you'll be participating in the BioIT World. Did you want to say anything about that at all? Gil, do we have you online?
I have to unmute. Hang on just a sec. Gil.
I found him. He's unmuted. Gil, you online?
Yes, here I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so I'm very pleased how the activities are coming together, especially the development of the three initiatives, code, content, community. It's Hackathon, the extensive program for BioIT World. I think it's a major presence in that meeting, and we should plan on it annually, of course. I think the June meeting will also be important. I'm very keen to see us lay down a schedule toward the 2.0 in the next year or so. I think once we get through 1.2 and maybe 1.3, we've got a lot to accomplish that the community is quite keen to see. The additional comment I sent was that there's currently a competition, big competition for some modest funds from NIH under BD2K, Big Data to Knowledge. And we call it Big Data to Knowledge to Action. So there may be some initiatives that give us some inroad finally into NIH, and certainly initiatives involving corporate and academic partners of tranSMART that we should look at as potential opportunities to highlight and engage tranSMART besides the bio-IT world and the stuff of our own program. I'm sure Keith's on top of this, and many of you must be aware of these kinds of opportunities that are now emerging.
Gil, that's a great point to make, and I'm going to use that as a quick launching platform. In terms of the number of grant opportunities that are out there, what I'd like to do is ask people, we're in the process of, as a foundation, organizing some of this information. But if people know of grant opportunities where the foundation can either help support individual investigators, we do write letters of support to different groups who are using the platform for their efforts. We recently had some successes in this. I know in terms of PCORI grants, the Harvard group, Paul Avalok and others were successful in their grant work using the tranSMART platform for the PCORI grants. I know the foundation will definitely love to support people with letters of support, with any other kind of resources to help obtain funding, and we can act as a clearinghouse for new grant opportunities. If people know of those, please send them to us, send them to Kevin Smith or myself, and we'll make sure that we mention them as they come up in the community context. And finally, Gil, I'll launch off your other comment, which is as we're coming up on the workshop in June, I think one of the key areas and focuses of that workshop should be the roadmap. And so one of the things that we will do and echo through that is thinking not just about where we have been, version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2 now, but also version 1.3 and beyond, version 2 as a stream as well. So those will be key issues for us to consider at the workshop. If people have other suggestions for things, please get them to your 3C community leaders, Brian Athey, Kevin Smith, and EK Go, and we'll make sure that we incorporate those in the agenda as we push that forward. Great. Thanks, Gil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. It's Brian here with Gil.
Oh, hey, Brian. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Brian?
No, it's absolutely great. I mean, we're starting to already plan our session for the upcoming, plan our sessions and our discussions and foci for the upcoming June meeting. It's when we look outside the window here, it's hard to imagine, but it'll be here soon. And we're going to start these various community calls soon. I know you've talked a little bit about that, and we've had so much success now with the Hackathon and then the follow-on event that's planned in Europe, and now we want to see the content and the community activities take off in the same level of energy, and that's going to be our focus. And we'll have some emails coming forward from many of us over the next few weeks. And Jay Bergeron is continuing his leadership in helping us find new ways and new opportunities. There's exciting possibilities with ADNI and Loney. We've got a strong basis for interaction with Loney here at the University of Michigan. And Keith, if it would be okay, I would like to show off some of these capabilities at our next community call next month to give folks ideas and thinking about planning for the June meeting.
I think that would be great, Brian. And I know that there's been some discussions amongst the community about being able to share data like the ADNI data that's out there that's been formatted for, incorporated, and exists in tranSMART, but is proprietary content, so that there are interesting issues around sharing of those content. So it'd be great to have you, give us a discussion around that.
The One Mind for Research folks are working with the same technology platforms as well, and it's a great opportunity for us. So we'll have a part of the meeting next time to show that and have a discussion about how we can best take advantage of that.
That'd be great. Fantastic.
Okay.
I see a quick question here from Ven Satagopam. Is there any possibility to join the bio-IT tranSMART Talks events remotely? In terms of the events that we will be hosting, that is the pre-conference workshop and the community meeting that will be held at Deloitte's offices in Boston, those, I believe, will be webcast, as we have done in the past. I will ask Kevin to confirm that. We'll make sure at the next meeting we can confirm details of that, but it is our plan to webcast those elements. In terms of the presentations at the meeting itself, we're not in a position to be able to do that. We can check with the organizers, but I don't believe that they do that either. So I don't think we'll be able to participate in those in that way. Let's see. I have. Okay, then there was a follow-up there from Kristen Cleveland. How do you guys test the new functionality being released, and do you have testing documentation available to the tranSMART users to point to or leverage for not only 1.2 but for previous releases? Terry, are you best to take that one on?
I already typed a reply, but I'll go over it for the general. So there are a number of interactive scripts on the wiki that we have been using to do hands-on testing of the user interfaces. We still have not come up with a good way of doing automated testing of the user interfaces. However, there are a number of unit tests and functional tests, and much of the new code being contributed is coming in with unit tests of its own. We're encouraging contributors to submit unit tests along with their code, and functional tests and integration tests, use good code practices like that. That said, if anyone out there has a good idea for turning the scripts into automated tests and resources to do that, that would be great, because we really do need to get the user interface under automated testing and those kinds of aspects of the application.
Great. Okay, I see a question from Natalie Julian. Any connection with AMP, Accelerating Medicine's Partnership Initiative? I'm not familiar with the Accelerating Medicine's Partnership. Kevin or Brian, do you have any feedback? Okay, I don't know that we have any communications directly with AMP. Be happy to have some discussions. So Natalie, if there's an introduction you would like to make there, I certainly would be happy to follow up on that. So if you could get back to me with any information there, happy to get involved. But I don't know that we have any formal communications at this point. Let's see, I've got a question from Bob Cohen on Gil's comment. Is there room to consider ways to get data analytics firms linked up with these efforts, either at BioIT World or at the June meeting? The answer to that, Bob, is absolutely, and we'd love to. So we've had some ongoing discussions with groups like PerkinElmer, Thomson Reuters, who have some real analytics pieces there. But we'd love to get more people involved with data analytics coming into this. So from that perspective, there are. I think if you have any particular suggestions or introductions to make, please let us know. Happy to do that. I think there's plenty of room for that. Ward Westra, I thought at the hackathon GEV was chosen to test the user interface. www.gabners.org.
I apologize, Ward. I didn't hear. I wasn't part of that conversation, but that sounds like a great idea. And I think let's push the discussion about testing and test coverage into the developers call, Chris, as well. And I think this is a great topic for next week. Peter's going to be running the call, and I think maybe we'll put that on the agenda and just continue the conversation there.
Yep, we'll do. That was the testing that I'd referred to.
Yeah.
That was Gustavo's use of Jeb. We need to work on all the bits we need to test, but obviously we need to make sure we've done all the changes to the user interface before we fully automate the tests.
And on Peter and Terry, on the wiki, do we have an appropriate place for this information around testing?
Yes, we'll put it on there.
Yeah, and also probably since Keith, you had me working with the person who's doing the website, we'll look for a place to link that information from the website as well.
That'd be great. And that just brings up another point is that yeah, we have hired a group called Tone Creative to work with us in updating our website and bringing some of these resources forward in terms of the marketing calendars, the various resources to access so that the foundation website can be a single point of access. You should expect some changes along those lines over the next month or so. But I'll give you a quick update on those next month and show you how that's coming forward. So that's a very good point, Tim. If anyone, I see that I think we've got most of the questions answered here. If you have another question, please post it. If you'd like to make a comment or statement, you can raise your hand. There's a little raise your hand icon, and we can give you the floor for a few minutes if anyone has any comments or questions. And what I can do is, while we wait to see if anyone else has a comment, question, or wants to raise their hand, I'll just circle back to Peter and ask if you have any kind of closing remarks you want to make.
Just to thank everybody for their feedback, and we'll put more information on the wiki as we go through the merge.
Fantastic. Okay, I don't see anything else popping up here, so with that, I think we'll bring the webinar to a close. I want to thank everyone for participating. I see we have about 50 people that have joined us. Thank you very much. If there are some of your colleagues that haven't joined, please remind them that we have these calls once a month. If you have suggestions for next month, please bring them forward. Brian will take you up on your suggestion and have you make a quick presentation on what's happening there. And we'll give you an update on where the 1.2 is, and hopefully we'll have more details on the next hackathon that we're putting in place, hopefully at Imperial College towards the end of March. With that, I'd like to thank everyone for your attention. Thanks, Terry, Kevin, Peter. Thank you, Gil and Brian, for joining as well. And we'll talk to you next month. Thank you. Well,